Oh, this is really deep. And every $1 increase in the gross national product for less developed countries, for every $1, there will be $20 increase for North America, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Canada. Now this really blew my mind, y'all, when I was doing this research. It went on to say, whether, not W-H-E-T-H-E-R, W-E-A-T-H-E-R, the weather, like outside. The weather will be manipulated to affect production and demand of food exported from other countries. Now you know that's deep. When they've actually developed the technology to cause weather control. Brothers and sisters, look at the person next to you and say, we really need to open our eyes. The report also stated that although the needs of Latin America and Africa could be met, hear this, although the needs of Latin America and Africa could be met in one generation's time, the United States opted for world model number 3, which calls for, now check, this is world model number 3. This is plans that's already in place. World model number 3, which calls for massive famine in Asia and non-OPEC Africa. OPEC is oil producing, exporting countries. So if it's a country in Africa that really ain't into the oil thing, mass famine will be induced in that country. Think about this, brothers and sisters. 80% of the products currently used in the United States are taken as raw materials from non-white countries. Did y'all hear what I said? 80% of the products that's used by this country is taken out of non-white countries. Now you understand, I hope you do, why there's so much rampant starvation and poverty in so-called third world countries, especially our motherland. When I see them showing little children on television who are starving to death, this is all a part of their program. They create the crisis, they implement the starvation, then show it to you on television, and you send them your money to further finance their program. Ooh, buddy. Let's get back to the King Alfred plan, since you now understand why. You see, brothers and sisters, the point is almost here. Mark my word. The point is almost here that the plans of our lily white government to incite rioting and revolution among blacks and other people of color in the world, the point is almost here where the President of the United States will issue his order for the emergency. The King Alfred plan. You have it in your hands. Let's look at it right quick. Let's see what's going to happen here. They didn't write this, brothers and sisters, without a plan to make it happen. Let me say that one more time. They did not go through the trouble of writing this without a plan to pull it off. The King Alfred plan, the United States of America King Alfred plan, codenamed Rex 84. Here's what it says, and I'm going to read quickly. In the event of widespread and continuing and coordinated racial disturbances in the United States, King Alfred, at the discretion of the President, Underline that and then look at the person next and say, this is why no black man can be the president. You got to understand, people, this program was written for black people. They ain't gonna, hey, listen, I don't know. What's Secretary of State's name? Colin Powell. I don't know. He seems to be a little disgruntled, but when you got people like that supporting the white agenda, you know, it makes you wonder. They might be able to put somebody who looks black in the Oval Office. It says, at the discretion of the president, King Alfred is to be put into action when? In other words, when the president of the United States, not Congress, not the House, not the Senate, not the House of Representatives, not the Senate, when the president declares this emergency, it's to be implemented immediately. Participating federal agencies, what are they? National Security Council, what else? Central Intelligence Agency, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, Department of Interior. Participating state agencies, what are they? National Guard units, state police. Participating local agencies are what? City police and county police, that's right. Now, one of the things you need to understand, brothers, let me make this notation before we read further. In addition to the law enforcement agencies that we just mentioned, in 1982, there was a guy named Oliver North. Y'all have heard of him, right? Oliver North and Ronald Reagan got together, and the two of them amended the King Alfred plan. And their amendment became known as Rex 84 because it was signed by Ronald Reagan in 1984. Now, the original plan was signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson, but Ronald Reagan amended it to include the Hispanic population. Originally, it was, what we're going to read, it was just written for blacks. But in 1984, Oliver North and Ronald Reagan amended it to include the Hispanic and Latino population. What's really deep, brothers and sisters, is this. The neo-Nazi groups, this is all a part of the amendment in 1984. The neo-Nazi groups in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, along with state militia groups, like the Missouri militia, the Michigan militia, the Minnesota militia, all of these white paramilitary groups that have their training grounds out in the woods and stuff that y'all, I'm sure y'all know about that, right? I hope you know about that. Well, the amendment in 1984 was written to include them automatically being deputized when the president declares the emergency. And all of these other groups will be deputized by the federal government to round up blacks and Hispanics for encampment. This is not good news, brothers and sisters. I'm not here to make you feel good today. I'm here to make you aware today. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Now, brothers and sisters, if y'all are thinking for a moment that there's going to be worldwide empathy or sympathy for us, don't think that. Now, I'm going to tell you why I say that, y'all. Because y'all remember when James Baker was Secretary of State? Yes. Well, James Baker developed a policy with Russia and Canada. These other governments have created what's called a United States European base to exterminate blacks and Latinos in Africa, South America, the East and West Indies, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. I mean, they're working. Why? Why are we targeted? Think about that. Let's finish reading the memo here. Memo from the National Security Council. Y'all see it? Notice what it says. Even before 1954, when the Supreme Court of the United States of America declared unconstitutional separate educational and recreational facilities, racial unrest and discord had become very nearly a part of the American way of life. But that way of life was repugnant to most Americans. Since 1954, however, that unrest and discord have broken out into widespread violence, which increasingly have placed the peace and stability of the nation in dire jeopardy. This violence has resulted in loss of life. Y'all remember the riots in the 60s, right? Okay, this violence has resulted in loss of life, limb, and property, and has cost the taxpayers of this nation billions of dollars, and the end is not yet in sight. This same violence has raised the tremendously grave question as to whether the races can ever live in peace with each other. Each passing month has brought new intelligence. Now check this out. That despite new laws passed to alleviate the condition of the minority still is not satisfied. Now who y'all think the minority is here? Black folk, right. Demonstrations and rioting have become a part of the familiar scene. Troops have been called out in city after city across the land, and our image as a world leader severely damaged. Our enemies press closer, seeking the advantage, possibly at a time during one of these outbreaks of violence. The minority has adopted an almost military posture to gain its objectives, which are not clear to who? To most Americans. Now, in other words, look at the person next to you and say, evidently, the minority and Americans are two different groups of people. In this document, anyway, when it says the minority has adopted an almost military posture, they're talking about the organization like the Black Panther Party. You follow what I'm saying? The Black Panthers stood out there in LA with shotguns and handguns and stood face to face with the police department saying, we ain't gonna have this here. That was adopting a military posture, and they had to do something about it. It's expected, therefore, that, now check this out, when those objectives are denied the minority, what does it say, people? Racial war must be considered inevitable. Now here we go. Read this with me. When that emergency comes, we must expect the total involvement of all 22 million members of the minority, men, women, and children. For once this project is launched, its goal is to terminate once and for all the minority threat to the whole of the American society and indeed the free world. That's some serious programming. Now, of course, it says 22 million members, y'all, and that's because that was the amount of blacks in the country back in the early 60s. You take it and apply it to today, it's a lot more. Chairman, National Security Council. Next memo, preliminary memo from the Department of Interior. Under King Alfred, the nation has been divided into what? 10 regions this country's been divided into for the purpose of implementing their plan. In case of emergency, notice what it says. Minority members. What people? Minority members. Now again, this has been amended in 1984 to also include Hispanics now and white sympathizers. Minority members will be evacuated from the cities by federalized National Guard units, local and state police, and if necessary, by regular units of the armed forces using public and military transportation. Read it now. What does it say? And detained in nearby military installations until a further course of action has been decided. Brothers and sisters, in case y'all did not know, June 27th, 1988, George Bush Sr. What date did I just say? June 27th, 1988. George Bush Sr. signed a document, an order proposing that military bases be turned into prisons. Look at the person next to you and say, there is a plan in place. It goes on to say that the 10 regions are 1, the capital region, 2, northeast region, 3, southeast region, 4, Great Lakes region, 5, south central region, 6, deep south region, 7, deep south region 2. Must be a lot of black folk in the deep south, huh, y'all? 8, Great Plains, Rocky Mountain region, 9, southwest region, 10, west coast region. No attempt will be made to seal off the Canadian and Mexican borders. Secretary, Department of the Interior. Oh man, over the page. Combined memo from the Department of Justice. Now here's where it starts really getting specific, people. Yes, yes. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI and CIA. I know this ain't supposed to come from the pulpits, but I've got to tell the truth. This is why we in the shape we in. Because our pulpits are the main vehicle for keeping our people asleep. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Once the pulpits start teaching the truth, well, I know pulpits can't do it, but the people who stand behind the pulpit, once we start making our people aware, maybe we'll kind of empower ourselves. Maybe we'll say as a people, I can't just sit idly by anymore. There are 12 major minority organizations, and all are familiar with the 22 million. Dossiers or files have been compiled on the leaders of these organizations and can be studied in Washington. Check out this part, y'all. The material contained in many of the dossiers and our threat to reveal that material has considerably held in check some of the leaders. What does that mean? That means when they have dirt on the leaders and the leaders decide they want to get out of hand, they start releasing some of that dirt to the public to put those leaders back in check. How many of y'all remember not too very long ago they had this video clip on television of Al Sharpton making a drug deal? Y'all remember that? Now, y'all know how old that is? That goes all the way back to the mid-80s. They had that clip all this time, but now the brother's trying to be more vocal for his people, and what did they do? Release some of that dirt. Brother done got quiet now. Yeah, buddy, that's how they hold our leaders in check. Leaders who do not have such usable material in their dossiers have been approached to take government posts, mostly as ambassadors, and primarily in African countries. Y'all remember when Martin Luther King got shot? Andy Young was standing right there on the balcony with him. And right after King got shot, what did they do? They made Andrew Young a United Nations ambassador. That's how they buy our leaders, people. The man was standing right there next to King. If anybody should have been a vocal advocate for what was going on, it should have been Andy Young. But Andy became a good boy. Became an ambassador. Look at the person next to you and say, it's bad when people are for sale. Let's make it even better. Let's say it's bad when our leaders are for sale. You see, brothers and sisters, the promise of these positions have also materially contributed to a temporary slowdown of minority activities. And it goes on to say, however, we do not expect these slowdowns to be of long duration. Why not? Because there are always new and dissonant elements joining these organizations. In other words, what they're saying is young folk are coming along. And they have a whole new paradigm. They have a whole new energy to deal with us. So what we must do is address them too. All organizations and their leaders are under what? Constant 24-hour surveillance. The organizations are, read them with me. One, the Black Muslim. Why y'all think the Nation of Islam is the top of the list? Think about it. What organization out here has addressed and fought racism as strong as the Nation of Islam? What organization in this country has done more for the resurrection of the black man than the Nation of Islam? Not one. The black church sure enough hasn't done it. In fact, the black church is the reason why the black man is in the condition he's in. You think about it, y'all, the black church is not designed for the empowerment of the black man. The black church is designed to excite black women. That's why in the black church, music is so important. Brothers don't want to hear all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, we ain't that we don't like music. But brothers just ain't into all that emotion. And if you notice, most of the time when people are getting involved, it's sisters standing up and clapping. Brothers are sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for you to feed this." Brothers are not into feeling good. Not that we don't want to feel good, but that's not our agenda. And the black church is about emotionalism. The black church is about how do you feel when you come out the wilderness. Now, y'all know it's the truth. They ain't asking what did you know when you come out the wilderness. It's how do you feel when you come out. Oh, shucks. Black Muslims. 2, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as SNCC. 3, Congress of Racial Equality. 4, the Voodoo Movement. 5, Group on Advanced Leadership or GOLD. 6, Freedom Now Party. 7, United Black Nationalists of America. 8, the New Pan-African Movement. 9, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. 10, the National Urban League. 11, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. 12, Committee on Racial and Religious Progress. And I've added another one, y'all. 13, the African Village Center. Yeah, I had to put that there. Note, at the appropriate time, underline those words, y'all. At the appropriate time. What does that tell you? That this thing is still in the works. At the appropriate time, to be designated by the president, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained. When though? Only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency. Can I give you a real live example of what I'm talking about? In other words, the next time y'all decide to sit down on Route 70, okay, and they bring their Pied Piper in here to lead y'all, if he is not having an effect, then he's no more good to them. But if they can bring their boy in here and sit down with y'all, and then say, all right, y'all, let's get up and go get in the paddy wagon, because we made our point. And then the whole thing only lasts a good 20 minutes. That leader is still effective for their cause. Look at the person next to you and say, we got to learn how to stop allowing them to manipulate us with our illegitimate leaders. Am I making sense, people? I know this message is not going to be liked, but I got to tell it. I got to tell it. I'm tired of seeing them send their puppets in here talking good. And that's what they do every day. They just fly all over the country getting arrested. They come here to St. Louis today, lead y'all into a game, get a phony arrest, fly out with their FBI escort, and go in Baltimore tomorrow and do the same thing. How many people come on, y'all, come on. Come on. I'm sorry for busting y'all's bubble. I'll tell you like it is. It goes on to say, all other leaders are to be detained at once. In other words, the leaders that ain't for sale. Compiled list of minority leaders have been readied at the National Data Computer Center. It is necessary to use the minority leaders designated by the president. I gotta walk now. Y'all see that? Yes. Minority leaders that the president designated. Look at the person next to you and say, so what good are they? It's necessary to use them in much the same manner in which we use minority members who are agents of the Central Intelligence Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And we cannot, until there is no alternative, reveal King Alfred with all its aspects. In other words, I ain't supposed to be standing up here telling y'all about this. You're not supposed to know about this. You see, brothers and sisters, the only way to prevent a conspiracy is to expose it.
Yes, yes. I say.
Notice the next sentence, y'all. Minority members of Congress will be unseated at once. Uh-oh. You mean Maxine Waters? She's a sister who speaks out for us. And the law has been written that when the president declares this emergency, so what, Maxine? You just another N-I-G-G-E-R. Conyers, you just another N-I-G-G-E-R. When the president decides that y'all gotta go, all of y'all out of here. That's the law, people. Signed by the President of the United States. Let's go on to the next memo because I'm running way out of time. From the Department of Defense. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now this is from the DOD now, Department of Defense. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. Look at the person next to you and say, and that's because we got a lot of black folk. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. Why not? Because they done worked it out, y'all, to where you got to get their permission to leave this country now. No passport, you ain't going nowhere. In the case of a national emergency, boom, all passports are suspended. How you going to get out of the country? I got a passport. So? You think you got an important document. That's what's deep. That's just their permission for you to go. Goes on to say, the greatest concentration of the minority is in the Deep South, the Eastern Seaboard, the Great Lakes region, and the West Coast. Now, while the national population exceeds that of the minority by more than 10 times, we must realistically take into account the following. 1, an estimated 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, engage the minority during an emergency. The reason why the white folk ain't gonna try to get out there in the street and engage us is because they know they ain't gonna win. No. They'll get out there in the street and they'll see Shaka Zulus everywhere. And they ain't gonna stay there. No. They don't want that. Number 2, American armed forces are spread around the world. A breakout of war abroad means fewer troops at home to handle the emergency. 3, local law enforcement officials must contain the emergency until help arrives, though it may mean fighting a superior force. New York City, for example, has a 25,000-man police force. Well, now it's more like 55,000. And there are about 1 million minority members in the city. We are confident that the minority would hold any city it took for how long, no? Only a few hours. Why? Because the lack of weapons, facilities, logistics all put the minority at a final disadvantage. Now notice this next part. Before we even read this next paragraph, say this with me. Black folk don't belong in the military. Don't so. No. Now I know it's real good when you get in there and they give you room and board and everything, and you stay in there and do your time and they take care of you for the rest of your life, suppose. But especially now. No. And I'm gonna tell you, we're getting ready to read why right now. Notice what it says. Since the Korean War, this department has shifted minority members of the armed forces to areas where combat is most likely to occur, with the aim of eliminating through combat as many combat-trained military servicemen as possible. Why is that? They can't afford to have combat military trained black folk on the streets here. There's a movie I encourage y'all to get called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. It's about a black man the first black man who became a member of the Central Intelligence Agency. And after he learned all of their skills and training, he resigned, went back to the black community, and taught all those skills to the brothers in the hood. He was a dangerous human being. They couldn't figure out where all this mess was coming from. They thought another nation had launched clandestine war against the United States. And it was brothers in the community who had learned the covert activities that the United States government had trained this brother. Today, the ratio of minority member combat deaths in Vietnam, of course this was again written back in the 60s, where they are serving as advisors, is twice as high as the minority population ratio to the rest of America. Now, here it gives a timetable for how this plan is to be implemented. Brothers and sisters, I don't know if you can even get your mind to fathom what I'm about to tell you. But here they have this thing so organized that they actually got it worked out to how they can actually round up, arrest, and detain and incarcerate all of the black people in this country in an 8-hour period. Notice what it says. Number one, local police and minority leaders in action to head off the emergency. In other words, those hand-picked leaders by the president, first thing they do, they send them in, try to get black folk to stand down.